Hello there and welcome to this brief video presentation from the EasyAs accounting software. For those of you from Canada who are about to change to the new HST taxation system of reporting, this video is for you. Up until now, you've been required to report both state and federal taxes. If we briefly have a look at an expense screen, we'll see here where you've most likely been required to report GST and RST or something very similar to this. With this new change to HST, you now are required to only report and record one tax, and it's now going to be up to your government agency to divvy out the amounts to the state from there. So this is great for you, as you only now have to record and remit one lot of forms each time you're meant to report to the government. Okay, what does this mean for you? How can you use the EasyAs software throughout this transition period? What this basically is going to mean for you is this. There is no way with the EasyAs software for you to be able to click a button and simply, hey presto, you've gone from one accounting system to the other, and for you to be able to come back at a later date and see the entries you made. It's just not going to happen. The only way for you to be able to record with some amount of accuracy is to treat this the same way you might have treated it if you were moving from an area of Canada where you previously had to record two forms of tax, such as in this example here, and you moved to a location where you would now only have to record one form of tax. For those clients, when you do this, you have to open a new set of books. So, because you're moving from one tax system to the other tax system, even though you're not moving location, this same scenario applies to you. This way, you can come back at any time next year or 2 years down the road or whatever's required, and you can see exactly the amounts that were recorded during the two separate periods. Basically, what it's going to mean, though, is throughout the transition period, you might have to print two sets of reports out from different sets of books and do some manual addition or subtraction there. But of course, you've only got to realise it's only going to be for this particular financial period. Come next financial period, it isn't going to bother you because you're already set up. Okay, so how do we best go about this? Simple. If you look at your main screen, you can see here I've got Bees Honeypot. That was just something I set up just as an example. Now, if you click on this, that's going to bring up your business name screen. Okay, which is exactly the same as for those of you who click setup and go in, change your business name details. It's the same screen, so it's going to bring us up to here. We see here we can have up to 5 businesses at one time. The easiest way for me to do this is to click on business number 2, and you're going to have to reproduce. So if I jump into here, if I jump firstly into business number 1, we see it's all set up with Mr. B's Honeypot's name and address and all the details you've got in your original business. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to jump into business number 2, and you're going to have to set all these details up again. So you'd set up B's Honeypot and put your information in. Now, the only problem that's going to have is you're going to have 2 listings on your screen which appear to have the same name. The accounting system's a dummy system. It doesn't care what you put on each line. It doesn't care what you call these systems. It records any information you record against this line is recorded against this line. When you click select, it knows that any information you're about to enter is to be recorded against the business that sits in line number 2. It doesn't care what you've written in there. So the best thing you can do, you can't give a different name because you want your reports to appear correctly. Here's how I would go. I would come up here, I would put myself a little bit of a line at the beginning and at the end of your name. That way it's pretty easy to distinguish, that's the old system, this is the new system. And when you print your reports, etc., this is what's going to appear, and that won't look too bad. Or you might decide to go the other way around and go, okay, for the new period, I'm going to call it this, and I'm going to just jump back to the old period and put these names in front of it. Whatever you want to do. Some way of distinguishing what's new from the old is going to make it simpler for you. So all you've got to do then is you jump into the new system, and if it's already on 2 systems of tax, you just click it to 1. It probably will already be on 1 because 1 is the default, so it's probably going to be on 1 system of tax. See that? 2 systems of tax, 2 systems, 2 reporting systems, 1 taxation, 1 system. So all we've got to do then is edit what it is, HST, put in the percent, whatever it is relative to you, and away you go. Okay, so what that means is once you've put all your address details and information back in here, you will naturally have two sets of books. So if I click on the new set of books, I'm going to come here, and if I click expenses, you now see we only have one column for the recording of the expenses. So you will notice that a couple of things will be slightly different to what you're used to. If you go up and you click your summary report and you print out your summary report, it's going to obviously only show one form of tax. It's going to be a slightly different report, but it's all obvious for you. It's all spelt out like normal. There is no difference or change. And if you want to jump back to view the old system, or during the transition period you have got entries or information you have to enter in both systems, just click there, jump back to the old set of books, and if you have a look, your old set of books, there it is. So nothing changes, it keeps them all separate, and it just means at the end of the year, like I said, if you just view this summary report again, you'll notice that this report includes this here, the two sets of taxes as we've had previously. You're already used to that. It just means at the end of the year you might have to, when you report total expenses and all this type of stuff, you're going to have to double up and record and do a manual addition of all your information. But there's nothing we can do about that. That's unavoidable, but it's all there for you. It's going to be 1 year, a little bit of hassle, and after that, smooth running. To finish off this presentation, there is one more element which is really important, which I need to show you. If we have a look at the invoices for the original business, here I'm up to invoice number 3. The first two invoice numbers, number 1 and 2, have been used. Of course, it depends on your numbering system. You might have changed the numbering system, but this will give you the message on what's going on. My next number is invoice number 3. If now, starting today, I have to start using the new HST system, I do not want to produce an invoice from the new set of books with an invoice number that's already in the system. I have to produce the next invoice. So if I go here, I know I'm up to invoice number 3. What I need to find out is what was the very last invoice number that I issued. In this case, it happens to be invoice number 2. So all I need to do now is to jump out of here, go up into this area, go to the new business, click edit, and enter invoice number 2. That's it. If I jump back to the old system again and have a look at my quotes, the last quote I issued was quote number 1. You have to do this for every area, folks. I go up in here and I enter quote number 1. That's it. Enter the very last number. Now, very simple, and I'll explain why. What happens is this system will create the next number after whatever number you put in here. So in this case, we've already issued invoice number 1 and invoice number 2. The next number is invoice number 3. I'll prove that to you. I'm going to create a new invoice, and it will happen to tell us the next number is 3. It's going to start now from invoice number 3. I'm just going to put and you'll see up here it's given us invoice number 3. And okay, it was invoice number 3 that was last issued. Okay, so obviously if for some reason you are changing to the new HST system and it's at the beginning of a new financial year, well, this remembering of invoice numbers is irrelevant to you because it's a new financial year. This is only relevant if you are changing to the HST system in the middle of a current financial year. Okay, I think that's pretty obvious. Now, the same thing's going to be for the quotes. If I have a look at the quotes, the next number is obviously should be number 2 because we've told it that. Simple, okay? And we know it's going to be number 2 because it just is.